Okay, so we all know the Nike swoosh, right? It's literally everywhere. But how did a company that started by selling shoes from the trunk of a car become this global giant? Well, the secret isn't really in the rubber or the fabric. It's in the feeling. In this explainer, we're going to break down the Nike blueprint for selling pure emotion. So let's start with a big question. When you buy a pair of Nikes, what are you actually paying for? Is it just a product to help you run a little faster or jump a little higher? As we're about to find out, Nike's whole game is built on selling you something, well, something way bigger than that. Right, so on one hand, you've got the physical stuff, rubber, fabric, the shoe itself. But what they're really selling you, it's stuff like discipline, ambition, confidence. They aren't just selling you a product, they're selling you a whole identity. So let's break down exactly how they pull this off. To really get a grip on just how huge they are, we gotta go back, way back, because this thing didn't just happen overnight, not even close. This was a slow burn, starting from, well, pretty much nothing. Believe it or not, it all kicked off in 1964 with a company called Blue Ribbon Sports. And I'm not kidding, the founders, they were literally selling Japanese running shoes from the trunk of a car. Fast forward to 71, they rebrand as Nike, and then just 9 years later, bam, 1980, they go public. And that's when the stage was set for total domination. And when I say domination, I mean wow. Today, Nike pulls in over $50 billion a year. To give you some perspective, that is more than the entire GDP of some countries. It's just an insane number that puts them in their own league. And their reach, it's just as wild. You can find Nike gear in more than 170 countries. I mean, they've basically achieved total global saturation. You can't escape the swoosh. So you can imagine it takes a huge team to run this whole operation, right? Nike employs over 80,000 people around the world. That's practically the size of a small city, all working for one brand. So if we look at where all that money comes from, it gets interesting. Yeah, footwear is still king. It makes up over 60% of their sales, but they are so much more than just a shoe company. Apparel? That's a huge business for them. And see that little slice for other brands? Don't let it fool you. That includes giants that they own, like Converse and the insanely profitable Jordan brand. Okay, so all those numbers, that's the what. That's the scale of the empire. But the real question, the one that's way more interesting, is how. How on earth did they do it? Now we get to the good stuff, the marketing genius, the emotional blueprint. You can pretty much trace it all back to a single moment. One partnership back in 1984 that didn't just change Nike. It completely rewrote the rules for sports marketing forever. So what do? They signed this rookie basketball player, Michael Jordan. Now, you gotta remember, this was a massive risk at the time. He wasn't the superstar we know today. But they didn't just give him a sneaker deal. No, they built an entire brand, Air Jordan, around his whole identity. And the result? Over $100 million in the very first year. It was an absolute masterstroke. And then came 1988. Nike was actually falling behind its rivals. And then they dropped Just Do It. In this campaign, it was revolutionary. It completely flipped the script. They went from being a brand just for elite athletes to being a brand for anyone with determination. It was universal. It was a mindset. And Nike has proven time and again they are not afraid of a little controversy. Remember 2018? They featured Colin Kaepernick in a huge campaign, and whoa, the backlash was immediate. But here's the thing. Nike knew their audience. They were betting that their core customers would stick with a brand that wasn't afraid to take a stand. And guess what? They were right. Sales shot up, their stock price went up. It was a calculated risk that paid off big time, cementing their brand identity. All right, so this whole emotional branding thing is backed up by some seriously clever business strategies. But building an empire this big, it definitely hasn't been without some major bumps in the road. Okay, so a key part of their playbook is something called scarcity marketing. It's basically the art of making something feel way more valuable just by making it hard to get. It's a super powerful psychological trick. And let me tell you, they are absolute masters of this. Just think about it. The limited edition sneaker drops that sell out in, seconds? The exclusive collabs with famous designers and artists? And then the insane resale market that pops up right after. It all works together to create this massive culture of hype. They turn a simple shoe into a collector's item. But yeah, like I said, it hasn't all been a smooth ride. The brand has faced some huge criticism. The biggest one was back in the 90s with all the allegations about sweatshop labor conditions in their factories overseas. The public outcry really hurt their image, and it basically forced the company to start being more transparent, publishing audits of its factories and, cleaning up its act.
So, when you put everything together, the history, the marketing genius, the business tactics, it all comes back to one simple, powerful idea. We're talking about the $1 billion feeling.
This right here, this quote gets to the absolute core of why Nike is so successful. It's such a deep psychological truth. When you buy something from Nike, you're not just buying an object, you're buying into an idea of yourself. The faster you, the stronger you, the more determined you.
And this whole strategy actually has a name. It's called emotional branding. It's all about building a brand that connects with you on a deeper emotional level. Instead of just talking about product features, they talk about your dreams, your goals, your identity. And that is what builds a kind of loyalty that logic just can't touch.
So, from selling shoes out of a car trunk to building a $50 billion belief system, Nike's story is really a masterclass in how to build a brand. So, the next time you see that famous swoosh, just ask yourself, what are you really buying? Is it just a shoe, or are you buying a piece of a story?